morning. I'm Christine Cornels, and we have a wonderful show for you. Very special person, Dr. Mary Cleave, who is a former astronaut and associate administrator at NASA, and she has much to share with you and be able to share the experiences of what it was like to be in space, but also to encourage those of you who are thinking about science and engineering disciplines. Just imagine what can be done when you have an educational background, as Mary does. So we'll be sharing her story with you today.
And there they will inspect the tank's aft dome and the shuttle engines. Everything has been going very smoothly in our countdown. The weather people saying still that there is a 60% chance that everything will be satisfactory for launch on time. We're standing by to go to the O&C building for the crew breakfast. In the center, of course, Commander Dave Walker, going over to the end from left to right, is Mission Specialist Norm Thagard, Pilot Ron Graby, Commander Dave Walker, Mission Specialist Mary Cleave, and the rookie of the crew, Mission Specialist Mark Lee. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. In the suit room now with scenes from the crew quarters of Commander Dave Walker in the process of completing his preliminary suiting up for the trip out to the pad. Next to him is the pilot Ron Graby. Ron Graby has about 98 hours in the orbiter Atlantis, which he plans on flying today. He was on 51J, the second DoD mission, and then Mark Lee, he looks like he's about ready for his trip out. Once you get into those suits, they are not as comfortable as the coveralls which they used before. Dr. Mary Cleave and Dr. Norm Thagard on the opposite side of the suit room, completing their buttoning up and zipping and that sort of thing. Those suits are basically protective clothing, which were made necessary when the decision to install an escape system in the orbiter was made. They will be putting on their parachutes, communications caps, survival equipment in the white room just prior to actually going into the orbiter itself. And here comes the crew now, being led out really by Mission Specialist Norm Thagard, Mark Lee, Mary Cleave, and the commander and pilot Commander Dave Walker waving, and pilot Ron Graby waving as they go into the elevator for the trip down to the first floor. Usually a number of signs saying good luck Atlantis, and good luck to the crew of STS-30. The people clapping now as they come out of the elevator, being led out by a security specialist, Commander Dave Walker, pilot Ron Graby waving to the people who are there in the news media, Norm Thagard, mission specialist, waving, Mark Lee and Mary Cleave moving towards the recreational vehicle.
Welcome back to Top of the Morning. Joining me now is Dr. Mary Cleave. Mary, such an honor to have you here.
Thanks.
She is a former astronaut and associate administrator at NASA and an environmental engineer as well, and we're looking forward to hearing her story and what her experiences have been like at NASA, and also just for encouraging girls who are considering to be scientists and engineers and recognizing what sort of opportunities there are for girls and for women in this area. Mary, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thanks. It's nice to be here. Yes, getting young people interested in science and math is important, and in particular young girls, because sometimes when they get to junior high school, peer pressure sort of pushes them in other directions. So we are trying to help out with that a little bit.
And now, what is your educational background?
I started out in undergraduate school. I was a high school science teacher. I was prepared to do that when I graduated from undergraduate school, but I had a BS in botany because I was very interested in plants. So when I was too short to be an airline stewardess and I went back to graduate school, because there was not another job in aviation at that point in time for me to do.
You couldn't be a pilot.
I couldn't be a pilot. Well, I started flying when I was 14, but I couldn't be a pilot. So you didn't even think about it then. You know, things were different then. Women didn't think about those kinds of careers, so it never occurred to you that you should want to be a pilot. It was very different then than it is now. I'm happy to say.
And a great,
yes,
fantastic.
yes.
Yeah.
But so I went on to graduate school, and I started out studying microbial ecology and in algae. And when you study algae, it's called phycology. So I would graduate with a master's degree in phycology, microbial ecology. And when I was going back to get a PhD, I was going to go at the Ecology Center and keep studying microbes. But I had to work. And in between, I worked at the Utah Water Research Lab, which was an engineering lab. And when I went to go back after 2 years, when I had enough money to go back to school, they said, "You don't want to be a scientist, you want to be an engineer." And I said, "I don't want to be an engineer, I want to be a scientist." There's a lot of tension between the two fields, just because of the approach. Because scientists are trained to go after the truth, and they will keep pursuing something until they have the truth, and they won't really give up on it. Whereas engineers are trained to take the best available data they have and make the best decision based on what they have right there. And then they keep moving forward. So it's two totally different approaches. And so there tends to be, at times, tension between the two groups. Well, the guys at the engineering lab offered me an absolutely spectacular research project on the Colorado River system. And so I went, I want to be an engineer.
So they convinced you.
They convinced me with a research project. Because at the Ecology Center, they were offering me cold desert dirt work. And the river sounded like it was a lot more fun.
Well, how did you ever become from being a scientist and then to an engineer to being an astronaut? That sounds like quite a leap.
It was, well, I mean, I started flying when I was 14. Wanted a career in aviation, but, you know, thought I was too short. But in the 10 years in between when I graduated from undergraduate school, when I graduated from graduate school, a lot had changed legally. They had passed laws that said you couldn't discriminate based on gender. And so when NASA went to advertise their first shuttle astronaut class, they were looking for scientists and engineers to go work in space. And I was working in Utah at the water lab. I was finishing up my PhD at the water lab.
And is that associated with the university there?
Yeah, it's at Utah State.
Oh, okay.
And we were a bunch of graduate school students, and we had a really good time. And one of the other guys came over and said, I was in the Logan Post office, and right up next to the 10 most wanted posters, there's a poster for NASA looking for scientists and engineers to go work in space. And so I said, oh, that sounds like fun. And then I found out that you got to fly in T-38.
So someone just happened to tell you about this poster that it's now open for women to be applying to be
This was before the internet.
Oh, yes,
so,
yes. Very different ways to find jobs.
Information out. So I went ahead and applied, and I got really lucky, and I got in. And so, you know, and part of that was there were not that many women with PhDs in engineering that also flew airplanes at that point in time. So I was very, very lucky.
What was your first mission as an astronaut?
My first mission was, you mean flying in the shuttle?
Yes, flying in the shuttle,
okay.
yes.
My first shuttle flight, I was a flight engineer, and I operated the robotic arm. And I grew some crystals for 3M. And it was a great time. I mean, it was very busy, but it was a very good 7 days.
Oh, it must have been fantastic. Well, Mary, we have a clip of you from space that we're going to go to right now.
From now until T-minus 31 seconds, when we begin the switch over to the onboard redundant set launch sequencer. The ground launch sequencer is part of the launch processing system and operates by relaying commands to the onboard computers, which then report back to the LPS system that the commands have been executed. The nozzle gimbal profile underway. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. We have a go for main engine start. 7, 6. We have main engine start. 0, and liftoff. A new era for planetary science begins as Atlantis clears the tower.
Standing by for engines to throttle down. All 3 engines will be throttled back to 65% performance as the vehicle passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Three engines now at 65%. Velocity now 1,000 feet per second. Atlantis 2 miles downrange.
That was really interesting, Mary. Thank you for sharing that. That must have been phenomenal being up there in space.
It really is. It's so much fun when you don't weigh anything.
Yes. Well, and what does it do to your perspective on life when now that you've been able to see the Earth from so far away? And I guess, how many times do you fly around the Earth every day while you're up there?
Well, you go around the Earth every hour and a half.
Okay.
So you go across the United States in 7.5 minutes. So it makes sitting in
Wow.
commuter traffic very unbearable for people because you're used to getting across the United States in 7.5 minutes. Why is it taking me an hour to get 5 miles? You know,
Very different. Yes. Oh, but yeah, just being able to see Earth from it. Did you get very much time to be able to just relax and enjoy while you're up there? Are you always working? Is every hour scheduled?
Every hour is scheduled. Sometimes if you get a weather scrub.
And what does that mean?
That means you can't land the day you were planning on landing because there was going to be too much cloud cover. The weather wasn't going to cooperate. Then they'll tell you to stay up. If you have enough fuel and stuff, they'll tell you to stay up on orbit for another day. And then you get a day where you'll actually be working on your experiments because you like what you're doing and you're trying to help out the people that you're working for.
Sure.
But you'll also have more time to look out the window and stuff. But I also think, although it's very busy, I didn't need as much sleep when I was in orbit. And I don't know whether it was all the adrenaline from being in space or whether it was just that if you don't work against gravity, you don't get as tired because there's no, gravity is a huge force. You just don't appreciate it because you've never been without it.
No, that's very true.
So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, and so what sort of scientific breakthroughs did you experience there? What?
When we were up on orbit, the research I was doing on crystals, I was working for 3M, and I'm not allowed to talk about it because of industrial secrecy.
Sure, understood. But I understand. Now you have a book that you have written, and to encourage middle school students, I believe. Share with us about your book.
This is a book that I worked on with Muriel Schloss, who it was.
Actually, here we can maybe show it so the viewers can see it. Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fun working with her. It was during my second space flight. She came down to Houston. She's from California. This is part of a series that was done for the Vermont Teachers Laboratory. And there are other women in interesting careers. There's one on a veterinarian, one on a geologist, and then others. It's a whole series of books. So I did the one on being an astronaut with Muriel. And she was down when I went on my second space flight and sort of went through it with me and wrote about it to let girls understand what it's like to be an astronaut. And it was really fun working with her. And it's been really interesting because when I go out and do workshops and stuff, I've had a number of young ladies come up and say, I read about you in junior high school. So.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So actually it's helping, I think.
Maybe you helped inspire them to pursue the science technology.
Yes, a couple of engineers have said that they read the book and decided to be an engineer.
Oh, that's
which is great.
Oh, that's fantastic. Mary, thank you. We're going to take a break now and we'll be right back.
On the outside, it seems unaffected by our efforts, so there's obviously a trick we don't know. Okay, David Covey.
pictures down here.
And let us know how Earth Out looks through the camcorder. This is just about sunset, but a little bit later on we'll show, when we get to sunrise, we'll show a little bit of the Earth, and you can tell us how that looks.
Mark, it looks great right now.
Oh, that looks real good. We'll try to give you some live downlink of the Earth. As you can see, it has a fairly significant zoom capability, and it stays in focus fairly well during the whole time.
A samples to exercise on the treadmill.
Okay, Mary, thanks. And we see that down here, about 2 minutes from Tidris LOS. We'll pick you up on the west side at 5:52, and we hope to still see Dave running.
Yeah, he's got most of a marathon he's going to do today.
Welcome back. And Mary, I understand there's an upcoming event. We have a sneak preview for this audience on November 14th. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we're really excited because the Maryland Women's Heritage Center is working on a display. It celebrates Maryland women in science, technology, engineering, and math, or the STEM, careers. And we have been able to participate with the center to help develop materials in support of the display. And we're just really excited to be able to get the word out to young women in Maryland that STEM is a great thing to think about when you're choosing a career. So we're happy that it's going to open and really looking forward to it, and the year it's going to be up in the center.
And I understand there's going to be an opportunity to learn a lot about the women who are at Goddard and who are working for NASA.
Yes, yeah. In fact, there's this book that's coming out in conjunction with posters. This particular book has over 100 women that work at Goddard in a great variety of fields in science, technology, engineering, and math, and also other support areas, because it takes a lot of different careers and a lot of different people to support the missions of the type that NASA does. And so, it ranges in STEM everywhere from architects to astrophysicists. So
people of all different educational backgrounds
That's right.
in the STEM disciplines can
That's
be
right.
supporting
Absolutely.
space and space exploration.
That's right, and it's really amazing the diversity there. So you should be able to find something of great interest within that diversity.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I hope you come down to the Maryland Women's Heritage Center November 14th and be able to see this display and read the book and be able to learn more about the women at Goddard. Mary, I was interested in talking to you. Yes. Oh, please go ahead.
Well, I think I'd like to clarify the display is going to be open for the whole year, so people have a whole year to come see it.
Thank you. Actually, that is very important. So if you can't make it November 14th, they can come down throughout the whole year and be able to see it. And in fact, students should probably come by, and teachers should bring their classes, and parents could bring your girls and your boys who are interested in space and space exploration and learn more about individuals who...
That's a good point. I mean, just because there are women in the book doesn't mean that it isn't a good way for anybody to understand the diversity available. And boys are welcome too. And along with the book, there are these great posters that we have that support it, along with, there's 6 different posters of 6 different missions, well, 5 missions and then general support of the missions at the center. And in particular, I'm really interested in the shuttle poster because that's one program that I worked on that's illuminated with the posters. And in each poster, there are highlights of the mission, and then there are short biographies of the women that are working on the mission. So it's a very, very interesting.
Great. Well, very much looking forward to that. Mary, we have a clip now to show the audience as well.
Oh, great.
All right, Tammy, go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, just a reminder, we would like for you to make just a quick visual inspection of all the pins to make sure they're straight before you each make it to the connection.
Mission Control, we have a visual shot now of Atlantis coming into Edwards, now traveling at a velocity of Mach 6, 136,000 feet altitude, 188 miles out from the runway. On to final, beginning a left overhead turn in the heading alignment circle. Vehicle is almost perfectly lined up with the plot and Mission Control. This is Mission Control. Here is the crew of STS-30 exiting the vehicle, led by Dave Walker.
Well, welcome back, and it was a fantastic clip to be able to see. And Mary, thank you for coming. And with the retirement of the shuttle, with the vehicle that you were on, I believe, is the one that flew the last mission?
Atlantis, yes.
The Atlantis, yes. It must have been tough to watch that land and to see it land as its last mission.
Yeah, it was tough, but when you work in the space business, you get used to the idea that missions have beginnings and they have ends. And I was just delighted that everybody got back in one piece and there was a successful ending to the shuttle. So I tried not to be depressed about it, but rather feel that it was a mission accomplished.
That's fantastic. Well, and I'd be interested in kind of your thoughts of future space exploration. What do you see for the future of space exploration now?
Well, we continue to explore. Next month there's going to be a launch of a Mars mission. It's unmanned. But it's carrying very important scientific instruments. These all collect data that are necessary to be able to ever, send people, because you have to do a lot of good exploration robotically before you could ever consider sending people anyplace. So the exploration goes on, and so it's an ongoing thing, and the universe is infinite, so there's lots to explore.
Yes, it very much is. And we're headed to a break. Mary, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be right back.
Okay. That was one of the crew pictures we took that kind of said what everybody was going to do on the mission, pretty much. You can only show leaving the crew quarters so many times and get something new out of it, and there's nothing new here except the sun was going down by the time we got out of there, because we were going to launch at 7:30 in the evening down there at the Cape. It was a great day, beautiful clear sky, and by the time we got ready for launch, though, it was pretty dark. So it makes the things like engine light-off sequence pretty spectacular to see it at the night. The engines worked fine, and the orbiter worked fine, and we went right down through the count very clean, and at 29 minutes after 7 in the evening, those solids lit, and we left. It was a pretty spectacular sight, we're told. People saw it as far north as Carolinas and all the way down the south end of Florida and beyond. It was a great ride from where we were sitting. There was a lot of light. We were immersed in a field of light all the way through ascent up till we got off the the tank after a main engine cut off. But gee, it was a real nice ride, smooth ride once you got off the solids, and just a real nice push all the way up to MECO. Brian, why don't you tell them about the rest of it?
Well, not only was it bright inside the cockpit, but these people who were about 3 miles away had all their faces lit up. It looked like we were headed towards the moon, and that's what it looked like to us as well in the cockpit. For about 3 minutes or so, every time I'd look up, I'd see the moon right in the center of my front window. We couldn't see any stars or the horizon, though, because of the glow all around the cockpit from the big fire behind us. We're coming up on solid rocket booster separation here. This is my first flight. I don't know what it looks or feels like in the daytime, but at night it went down from about 2.5 Gs to 1 G, and then from then on it was one continuous long push all the way to orbit. The first daytime scene that we saw once we got on orbit and came out of the Terminator here was Northwest Australia. Became pretty familiar with Australia. We saw it every day during the morning passes. Although this picture was shot a little later in the mission, it does show you what the cockpit arrangement was like.
Well, welcome back. Mary, any last thoughts you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I'd just like to encourage everybody to think about science, technology, engineering, math. I think it's a great career. I've had a great career, and I hope others will follow.
Many different options are available to girls and to boys who consider the STEM disciplines.
Yes, it's fun. It's really fun.
Well, you can tell from her enthusiasm. Mary, thank you so much, and so glad to join us with Top of the Morning. Look forward to seeing you at the next show. Thank you again.